This video is brought to you by Roll for Combat, an official Paizo actual play podcast. Visit rollforcombat.com today to listen to Agents of Edgewatch and join Basil, Dougie, Gomez, and Lomang as they protect and serve the citizens of Absalom from a mysterious and diabolical plot. Hello everybody and welcome to another great run of the Ask a Paizo Designer series here on the How Is Played YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel and to the videos that I put out there, I'll just take a moment to let you know that most of the content you're going to find on this channel is rules related, very much a rules related channel, especially for Paizo products such as Pathfinder and Starfinder. That's great, but sometimes you don't want your questions answered by just some rando on the internet. You want to find somebody who has some actual authority on the matter, and that's what we are doing here today, because I'm not alone. I've got a special guest with me today, and this is a person whose name you're going to find on the front cover of Secrets of Magic, on the front cover of the Advanced Player's Guide, the Game Mastery Guide, the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Core Rules, Mr. Logan Bonner. Logan, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well today.
Great. And for those in the viewers out there that may not be familiar with you, can you share your title with Paizo and a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'm the Pathfinder lead designer, which means that like the other people on the design team, I do a lot of work putting together and developing the kind of the rulebook line of books. And as the lead designer, I'm also kind of making some of the calls when we're introducing some brand new concept to the game, kind of the best way to do it, when to bring different things into the game ecosystem, that sort of like top level stuff. I kind of keep an eye on that.
Okay. So safe to say you have a degree of familiarity with Pathfinder and its rules. So you're probably pretty much the best source to go to tackle these tough questions, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess before we dive into the questions, is there anything you would like to promote or plug while you're here with us? Anything you're working on?
So we're working pretty far in the future right now. We're working on Dark Archive and the book after that. But one that we have wrapped on and that's going to be kind of our next big one coming out is Book of the Dead, coming out early this year. So look forward to that one. It's got a lot of cool undead stuff in it, ways to play undead, a bunch of new undead to fight, and tools for fighting undead, an adventure, some information on places in the world of Galarian that have a lot of undead. So it's just going to be a lot of fun to read and kind of dig into, the darker side of the death and undeath.
So let's dive into these questions. Again, these questions were all submitted by the community. We'll be tackling these one at a time, and I will be publishing them over the next week or two in the same format that I do the rule reminders, each one being dedicated to one specific question and one answer, or however many answers are needed for that one question. And for those of you who may watch this series and say, well, what about my question? I asked it, and it got a lot of attention on Reddit. If you don't see it here, it's probably because it's being saved for an official errata coming up. But to get us started, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the witch archetype and familiars with the witch archetype. Specifically, witch familiars, they have one additional familiar ability than the familiars we find in the core rules, and if that familiar unfortunately dies, then they return to that character on the next day, which is another benefit of them. And when we look at the dedication feat for the Witch Multiclass archetype, it refers to a normal familiar. It says that the familiar that you get with the Witch archetype has one fewer familiar ability than a normal familiar. And there's some confusion over if that's a normal witch's familiar or if normal refers to the familiars found in the core rules. So can you clear that up for us?
Sure. So that one does refer to just the stock familiar, not a witch's familiar. Essentially, like, you're going to go look at the familiar section. You're not going to go look at the witch and then the familiar section. It's telling you, like, pretty much straight up, use the familiar rules and make the adjustments based on that.
Okay, and therefore I would assume, because the follow-up question to that is, what happens when that familiar dies from a multi-class witch? I assume then it would, of course, just follow the regular familiar rules as well.
Yeah, it'd follow the regular rules. I think, like usual with the familiar, if it makes sense in your campaign to do something special to get a new familiar or to raise a familiar that you and the GM can work out, I think that's reasonable. But it doesn't get the normal witch's benefit of bringing their familiar back.
Okay, awesome. One question down. So there you have it. As always, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank everyone who supports this channel by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon, leaving comments, sharing the videos with your friends. Everything the community does to support me is greatly appreciated. I also, of course, want to thank Mr. Logan Bonner for his time answering questions with us. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.